Welcome to the Genius Talk podcast. I'm your host Atul Raj from the bestemailmarketer.com, and today we have Cheryl Thacker with us. Cheryl, thank you so much for joining and welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yep. Okay, so for our listeners who don't know you, can you tell them who you are and what do you do?
Yeah, so I'm Cheryl Thacker, and my company is Successful Coaches Enterprise and the SCE Coaching Academy. And I help aspiring coaches to get certified, credentialed, and then to launch and build successful businesses. So we combine both the education piece and also the business coaching piece.
Okay, so what was the turning point that made you leave corporate and become a coach?
Yeah, so I was working about 60 hours a week in my corporate job, and I was raising 3 kids, and it just became too much. I couldn't continue to do that, and it just became more difficult to just live life and also support myself. And so um I even started getting sick. Like, I started having health issues, and I just said this isn't worth it. And so I decided to leave the job. Now, I did it in a way that I actually don't recommend people to do too much. I left without having a plan. I just got really so tired of it. And then again, my health was tanking, my kids. I never saw my kids. It was just really bad. So I just like, I'm done. And I left. So it took me about 6 or 7 months to actually, or maybe even a little bit longer, to figure out what I wanted to do. I had done some entrepreneurial type things before. So I just kind of went back and tried to figure out what I liked and what I didn't like. But in that process, I had somebody tell me that I would be a good coach because I had been, I was manager and executive level in my corporate career and an officer. And they were just like, you'd be a really good coach. So I investigated it a little bit, and I was like, well, this sounds interesting. And so I interviewed 3 different schools to get a feel for what education the schools gave you. And I said, I like this. They give you some structure, and they help you know the ins and outs of like the competencies and the ethics and all that kind of stuff. And so I chose one of those schools and got certified, and then got more certifications and credentials. In that process, I launched my business, and yeah, I haven't gone back.
Who are your ideal clients? Who do you
Who
help
are my
right now?
ideal? So my ideal client right now is people in corporate that are trying to get out of their jobs because the same thing, like they're stressed, they're working a godly number of hours, they're not seeing their family or their kids, they don't have any, work life balance, and they want to help in a different way, right? Because when you're in corporate, you're working your butt off for somebody else to make them money, to make them successful. And so when you become an entrepreneur, you do all that for yourself. And so those are the people that I'm looking for. And typically, even if they don't go for certifications in coaching, they want to be some kind of a consultant or some other type of coaching that they want to do with helping people to be successful. And so that's my main audience. And again, I typically will help them to launch and grow a business or get certified first, learn the coaching business inside and out, and then launch their business. So that's basically how I help them. I help them through my one-on-one coaching. I have group coaching for the business side, and then I have live courses where we do the certifications.
Okay, so can you share any of your favorite client success story?
Yeah, I mean, I've got quite a few, but I have a client who was she worked in STEM, a woman in STEM, and it's very difficult for women in STEM because it's typically a male dominated niche and industry. And so she was working in that industry, and she didn't have work life balance, and she was, started having difficulty with her health and burnout, really. Just a lot of burnout because of the number of hours, and then also the competition because it's a male dominated industry, really. There's a lot more competition for the roles and for the responsibilities that they would get. And so it just created a whole lot of stress for her and her family. And so she decided to leave and become a coach consultant. And then she got into wellness to help herself heal. Like, she had some issues from that type of work and that burnout. So then she decided she was going to be a wellness coach and she was going to help other women in STEM to get healthy and make decisions that are best for themselves and their family. And that's what she does. And she's very successful in it. She's been doing it for 11 years now. And so we helped her to launch her business and we continue to help her with her marketing and her and business coaching. So she's one of my favorites. I've worked with her the longest. I think she's my longest client, and we just enjoy working together and helping her to reach more people, and she gets to help others by helping women in STEM to balance their own life and avoid burnout and be healthy. So that's one of my favorites.
Okay, so how do you coach someone who is great at coaching but scared of selling?
Good question. So, and which is about 90% of coaches. They're
Yeah.
great at coaching, right? But you know, lead gen or selling, getting on a sales call is just, very stressful. And so what one of the things that I do in one of my programs is I help them to get used to being visible, meaning, whether typically they're going to be online coaches nowadays. Before COVID, it was a good mix. It was about 50-50, but now it's mostly online. So we go through a program where I help them to get out there, get seen and known online. And that might be, depending on their niche, that might be like communities or maybe even in person communities that translate over online. But it's about getting visible so they become comfortable seeing themselves out there online and other people reacting to them and mingling, right? Just like getting to know each other and having conversations and just getting that comfort level. Once they're comfortable with that, like kind of seeing into the unknown, because the online space is like you're on Facebook, you're talking to people outside, out there, and you can't see them, or maybe you see them pop into your comments, but like it's not in person and that's very scary, but once people get used to that and they get used to, even starting some DM conversations, they get used to putting content out there and getting some feedback from their content and just building relationships and really just building up a community of their own, it becomes a lot easier to then get those people onto a call and have a conversation. So that's the first step is getting that visibility so the comfort level starts to be like it starts to become a norm to just starting to talk to people in general about your services, about who you are, about what you believe in, your value system, all of that. And that actually makes it a whole lot easier to have sales conversations. But then we also talk about those sales conversations and we have a lot of role playing. We practice it. We have scripts and stuff that they can customize for themselves and find their own voice in it, right? We help them to get used to that. And then it's not hard sales. Like I don't believe in hard sales. So it's not like, get on the call and have a hard sales conversation. It's about building that relationship even on the conversation in the call
Mhm.
and then seeing what can you do to help that person? What kind of services do you provide that's going to, address their problem? And then it's a natural lead into what's one thing that you can do to help them right now in this conversation? And typically there's something that you can find that you can help them with in that initial conversation. And then it's an invitation. So you've built a relationship, you've helped them solve one problem or one piece of a problem. And then it's an invitation to take it further. So we kind of moved away from like hard sales conversations more into invitations and people are more comfortable with that and they get a better success rate.
So, do you see any pattern in all your favorite client who get the best results?
Pattern, well, they have to be willing to do the work. That's number one, because it's not the one thing I see a lot when people, especially when people come out of corporate. So when you're in your job, right, you're told what to do, how to do it, when to do it, right? You're given this set of instructions that surround your job. Well, when you come in and work for yourself, you have to set those up, right? So if you come into it knowing that you have to do A, B, C, and D, you know, every day or 3 times a week or whatever, and then you follow through on it, you're going to be much more successful than the person that comes out and just does things off the fly. So
Mhm.
it's really the most successful people have a plan and they follow through on it. And that plan might be something that they come up with themselves, but I typically find it's more helpful to have somebody else help you figure that out that's already done it. And then follow through, just being very consistent. having something or someone that can help you be accountable. That might be, a coach. It might be a group of people, something that's going to help keep you accountable and help you to keep motivated because again, you don't have outside factors keeping you motivated. You don't have a boss telling you you did a good job. You're not getting an annual review where you're getting raises and, praise from people. It really comes from you. Eventually, you'll get testimonials, which will make you feel great. But in the beginning, you're not getting that initially. So I think that's the best thing is if you have a plan and then you're willing to show up and do the work.
Okay, so looking back when you started, what's one lesson you would tell yourself if you could restart again as a coach?
Yeah. So I waited about 2.5 years before I hired help, and that was not the way to do it. Well, two things. One, I probably shouldn't have left my job without having a plan. That was the first thing. But secondly, I struggled for 2.5, almost 3 years. I struggled just trying to figure things out on my own. And back then, this was over 16 years ago. But there wasn't such a big presence of coaches, right? It's not like everywhere you turn there was a choice. Like it was typically high ticket and you didn't have much else to do. So I wasn't in a position for high ticket, but I didn't look for anything else either. I just said I'm going to figure it out because it's too much for me to hire a coach. Then I also realized, well, if I have that mentality, how am I going to help other people make a decision to hire a coach, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I had to overcome that and also had to find some other options that were more doable for my situation. And I did. I found a wonderful coach. And within the first 3 months, it made such a huge difference. I was like, okay, I can do this and I can make money at it. I can help people. I can be with my kids. I can do it all. I can have it all. And I've not been without a coach since.
Which book or resources has the most impact on your work?
Which book? That's interesting. So I read about, I don't even know, 30 books a year. There's not any one book, but what I like is well, first of all, emotional intelligence is a big thing for me. I feel like emotional intelligence plays a big part into my success and success for coaches in general. So that's actually something that I took courses on. I got certified in giving emotional intelligence assessments, and I actually added into my courses. So I teach coaches how to be successful with emotional intelligence. So I think that's a big factor there. But books on emotional intelligence and how to use it to be self satisfied, right, in your life, but also to help your clients is a big part of what I think is helpful in the books when I'm reading the books. And then the other one is more like there's a book called Mindset by Carol Dweck. To me, it's a small book. It's like this big, but it's a huge impact, has a huge impact. And I always recommend that because it helps with mindset when you're getting, you're kind of falling behind in motivation and, energy and that kind of stuff. And I can go back to that book. I can read it very quickly and it just reminds me of things that I'm able to push forward. So that would be another book. But again, I just like a whole bunch of books. I like books about coaching skills as well. I read those all the time. I think it's good to have a variety.
So, for our listeners who want to know more about you or get your help, where can they go?
Yeah, you can go to successfulcoaches.com and you can also find me on LinkedIn, Coach Cheryl Thacker, and on Facebook, Coach Cheryl Thacker.
Is there anything else that you would like to share?
Just that if you are thinking about, starting your own business, leaving your corporate job, I know that it's scary and it can be very stressful to say, oh, I'm just going to, start my own business. But, have conversations, do some research and, get comfortable in what it could mean for you because it can have a whole lot of benefits that you're never going to get working for somebody else.
Great, Cherry. Thank you so much for joining us and spending some time with us. It was really fun chatting with you.
Thank you.